U.S. Attorney, police chiefs. I'm just a communications manager. I work for Families Against Narcotics. Families Against Narcotics started in 2007 after a couple of teenagers at Fraser High School overdosed and died, and the community got together and wanted to know what they could do to help. So they started an organization called FAN. And we've been helping people ever since. We've got a program called Hope Not Handcuffs. You'll hear a little bit more about that in a little bit when Kim, the program director, speaks about it. But I'm up here not really to talk about what FAN does. I'm actually up here because, first of all, this is my neighborhood. I'm 61 years old. I've lived in Grosse Pointe for 56 of those years. I also have a son who's 33 years old who has struggled with substance use disorder and mental health issues for going on 19 years. Okay. My son was 15, going to school at Grosse Pointe South, started struggling with depression. Didn't really tell anyone about it, but we eventually figured it out. Went to a psychiatrist, got some medication, but he was just struggling, and he tried to kill himself. He took an overdose of his antidepressants one night. My wife found him. We took him to the hospital. He got his stomach pumped. He was okay. But mental illness is also a big part of this addiction problem. I just want people to know that. For people who take drugs, drugs are not their problem, it's their solution. People with anxiety and stress and just mental health disorders, they want to feel normal, so they look to self-medication. And my son started, smoking marijuana, and then he was taking prescription pills that weren't his, stealing them from us. One little footnote, if you have kids in your house and you have prescription medications, go on Amazon, buy yourself a safe with a combination and lock all your meds up there, because you may not think that your child will take pills that aren't theirs, but I'm telling you, it does happen. My son's weed smoking turned into other drugs, the prescription drugs, eventually led to him being addicted to heroin. He went to treatment several times, finally got over the heroin addiction, was doing well for a while, relapsed, started drinking a lot. Make a long story short, 4 years ago he was living in our home, was drunk, and decided he wanted to try heroin again just to see what it felt like. He overdosed in our house. My wife and I were doing a crossword puzzle in the family room. I thought it sounded kind of quiet. My wife went up to check on him. He was half on the bed, half off the bed, making a groaning noise. We called 911. The police came, the Grosse Pointe City Police. They had Narcan, thank God. They asked me if he was using heroin. I said no, he had in the past, but he hasn't used it in a while. And they said, well, we're gonna give him Narcan just in case. They gave him 2 doses of Narcan and it brought him back. The EMS team showed up a few minutes later and said that if the police hadn't had Narcan, my son wouldn't have made it. So that's one lesson to take away from here. Narcan saves lives. It saved my son's life. It's harmless if somebody is not experiencing an opioid overdose. You won't hurt them. We have Narcan out in the hallway for free tonight. You can take it, no questions asked, have it on you, carry it. You never know when somebody might need it. People ask me tonight how my son's doing. He's not doing really well right now. He is actually 15 days sober. He had a relapse not too long ago. He's been to treatment 9 times. The most recent time he was 2 weeks ago. He went to treatment. He was doing really well, and he caught COVID at the treatment center, so he had to come home. And he's been struggling. In fact, in the last week, I think he's been to the ER 3 times for mental health issues. So, it's not a club I wanted to be in. Even on the program here, it says Dean Dauphinais Families Against Narcotics and parent of a son who struggles with substance use disorder. That's true, but my son is not a bad person. He's a great person. He was a great student, he was a great athlete. The last Little League game he played, they lost to the team that won the Little... Is that a timer, or is that just Windows freaking out? Oh, your battery's running low. I don't know if that's directed at your laptop or at me. Yeah, my son's last Little League game, he lost to the team that won the Little League World Series in 2002. He was a good kid, he's still a good kid. But you know what, addiction doesn't discriminate, and my kid's not a bad person who needs to learn to be good. He's a sick person that needs to get well. And we have to do everything we can to destroy the stigma that's still associated with substance use disorder. I think probably that's why there aren't more people in the audience tonight. People just, people are scared. When my son first started struggling with addiction, I didn't keep quiet. I talked to everybody I knew about it. I started a blog that won awards eventually for one of the best recovery blogs, because I wanted people out there who were going through what I was going through to know that they weren't crazy. The feelings that they were feeling, the anger, the pain, the grief, those are all real things, and we have to talk about that. Stigma is, when Betty Ford had breast cancer, there was stigma associated with breast cancer for years and years. Betty Ford came out and talked about it. I don't think anyone in here would say there's stigma associated with breast cancer anymore. Same thing with AIDS. When AIDS first came about, so much stigma associated with it. Now, you've got commercials for AIDS medications running on TV. We have to break the stigma. We have to talk about this subject. We have to be realistic about what's going on. So, I'm probably going to run over time, I don't know, but I'm going to talk anyway. I started at FAM 4 years ago. I spent 25 years in the publishing industry, and I got tired of doing it. And my passion was with helping people who were struggling with addiction, families and individuals. And I wanted to do something in that field just to help people. So my company was reorganizing. I decided not to stay. Thank God my wife, who's sitting back here, encouraged me to take the buyout they offered me and just look for something different to do. It took me 6 years to find this job with FAM. I worked as a freelance writer. I did some crazy things. I worked at Starbucks for 4 days. It was the hardest job I've ever had in my life. And I don't even drink coffee, okay? I worked at Starbucks for 4 days because they were building one at the end of my street, and I thought, I can just walk to work and be a barista and everything will be easy. I'll tell you, that is the hardest job. If you go to Starbucks with any regularity, tip those people like there's no tomorrow. But anyway, I finally found this job with FAM. I started out as a part-time person doing administrative stuff because I just wanted to be a part of this organization. And I was talking to somebody today. It's like when I first started, I was so excited because I had this job that I loved, and I just went to work, and 4 o'clock came along, and I went home, and I didn't take it home with me. And it's like now, I'm the communications manager, and it's like 24 hours a day, almost 7 days a week. I got stuff going on, but I love it. It's not like work. When I got to FAM, Hope Not Handcuffs was in over 100 police departments in Michigan. And for those of you who are not familiar with Hope Not Handcuffs, it's a program where anyone who's struggling with addiction can walk into a participating police department, say, I want help, and the police officer at the desk will call Families Against Narcotics, and we will send out a volunteer angel to help that person get into treatment. Okay? It's a very simple, very safe process, and I wondered why we didn't have it in any of the Grosse Pointes. I asked a couple people, and it's like they had tried to get it into the departments, had no luck, or one department might want to do it, but they don't want to do it if all 5 didn't do it. So that brings me to my little goal for the year that started in November. So looking back on when my son was struggling, there were many times at our house where things got out of control with him. He would be under the influence and get angry and get violent. start breaking things, and rather than, try and engage with them, we would call the police to have them come and help diffuse the situation. So I live in Grosse Pointe City. We call the police, they'd come out and help us, and that's how I met this guy over here, Director John Alcorn of the City Police Department. At the time, John was an officer, and he came out to our house numerous times to help us. And I was just overwhelmed. I hope I don't start crying because I was overwhelmed by the compassion that this man showed my son when he came to the house. And the compassion he showed us, because on more than one occasion, the day after he was at our house, this guy called me on the phone to check on my family, to see how we were doing, to see how Sam was doing. And that just blew my mind. It's like, I never expected a police officer to do that. It's like, I couldn't believe it. So, not that long ago, Mr. Alcorn got promoted to Director of Public Safety in Grosse Pointe City. And I thought, I know that guy. I know he's compassionate. This is my opportunity. So I emailed him, talked about Hope Not Handcuffs. Took a little bit of time. I don't know, maybe he was busy. But this past December, sent him an email and he said, yeah, I'm interested. I'm gonna call a meeting of all the Grosse Pointe police chiefs. So we met in January at the City Police Department. All the police chiefs were there. We talked about Hope Not Handcuffs. We showed them a video. I left, as I was leaving the building, John met me at the elevator and he said, I'm in. He said, and I think I can get the other departments to join us too. So, long story short, Hope Not Handcuffs, active in the city of Grosse Pointe, active in the city of Grosse Pointe Farms, active in the city of Grosse Pointe Park, almost active in the city of Grosse Pointe Woods as soon as they get their officers trained. And Grosse Pointe Shores also has agreed to do it, and they're getting their officers trained shortly. So all 5 Grosse Pointe police departments will be safe places for people to go, ask for help, and have a safe and easier way to get into treatment, because if you've ever tried to get anybody into treatment for drug addiction, it is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It's beyond my belief why getting care for mental health issues and substance use issues is as difficult as it is. You go to the ER with a broken arm, they take you in there, they x-ray your arm, they fix it, they send you home. You go to the ER with extreme anxiety. My wife will attest to this. You go and you sit and you wait for the social worker, and sometimes you wait 23 hours, which is something we've done, for a social worker to come to see your son who is just unable to even be in his own skin because of his anxiety. The system's broken. I'm not here to talk about that, but I am here to let you know that Families Against Narcotics has all kinds of services that we can provide to anybody for free. We can get you into treatment. We can give you a family recovery coach, someone who's lived through the experience of having someone who struggles with addiction. They can help you. We have peer recovery coaches who are people in recovery who can help somebody who's struggling. We can help you get into a sober living house. We have scholarships available for people who need to go there. We have a Stronger Together support group for families. We have all kinds of services that we provide for free. All you gotta do is go to our website, familiesagainstnarcotics.org. And I'm just gonna end this with a quote from my favorite author, because this whole fentanyl thing and opioid crisis is kind of some grim, bleak shit, if you will. And my favorite author, Anne Lamott, has a quote that says, "Hope is about choosing to believe this one thing, that love is bigger than any grim, bleak shit anyone can throw at us." And I just want everybody here to know that like my shirt says, compassion is greater than stigma. We need to keep the stigma away and start treating people who struggle with addiction and mental health issues with compassion, because you know what? They're just human beings who are struggling. Thanks.